Amos continues his trenchant attack on the social life of the Israel that he sees before him. Much comfort, much luxury, even new inventions of musical instruments. One actually makes a parallel with our time. What would he say today? How much luxury is there out there? What is portrayed as the ideal in the adverts of our screens? It is as though there were a great illusion all around that paradise is here attainable. With regard to that specific question of music and the instruments that we invent to produce it, we need to be aware that the powers that wish us harm, those that wish our loss, our eternal damnation, know full well the power of music on the soul. It can obnubilate the mind, obfuscate the head, and make it inaccessible with regard to divine grace, which is gentle and needs silence. When music becomes heavy impulses, when harmony yields to rhythm which is aggressive, then we are in trouble. God cannot be heard over the decibels, and the demon knows it full well. And we have a situation in our day when wherever we go in a public place, we are obliged to listen to music which actually is questionable in its quality. It certainly does not help those who live there and work there for perhaps 8 working hours a day to meditate and ponder on the reason why they are doing it and why one works anyway. And indeed the messages given on these songs are very much at the antipodes of the Christian message. Indeed, sin is glorified, and who cares about eternity? It has been cancelled, for time is here to be enjoyed. This is a modern version of what Amos was looking at, and we find it again in the Gospel. The pleasure satisfied Dives, the rich man, and he did not even notice the hungry beggar before him. There is a reversal in the beyond. The word used to indicate the separation between one domain and the other is, in Greek, the root of our chasm. And that is interesting. Chasms can be seen on earth. One cannot cross from A to B when there's a huge chasm in between. So it is in the beyond. There is a separation. One makes it or one doesn't. And there the issue is clear. 1 second after the separation of soul from body, things are seen as they are, and pleasure exists no more in the body, for the body is not there to accompany the soul. There is then nudity in the soul. All it has is its merit. And if that merit is lacking, it lies in the balance, rather as in Belshazzar's feast. Thou hast been placed in the scales, and art found wanting. Near here we have the high cross at Monaster Boyce, and there is this soul in the scales, and there's a demon trying to pull the scale in one way, and the angel would have him saved and is trying to pull on the other. But it is an uncomfortable situation. Which way will he go forever and ever and ever and ever and ever? And people have watched that and meditated upon it ever since it was chiselled out way back, centuries before we came along, for a short time. Indeed, these issues have been put in print in the best of our literature over the centuries, and that is what gives literature its high quality when it deals with things of that nature and things in general which are of a high tone. It should not be overly flippant, otherwise it does not in any way enrich our life. There is the place for humour, but life is not just humour. There is a bottom line of seriousness, and part of the messages coming through the airwaves, it would seem, succeed in cancelling that. It is as though things were just happy-clappy all the time. Is it so? And is that enough when things turn out to be not exactly as we had hoped? What have we to fall back on? Maybe a quick suicide will sort the problem. And yet, that too creates a new one. The soul finds itself in the scales, suddenly and irreversibly, and realizes that it made a shortcut which has no going back over. With regard to the issue of salvation, it is linked precisely with the drama of time. Each tick may contain eternity for somebody, for each tick may contain one last pull of grace for somebody who has no more time left. One listens to the way in which the greatest English writer, William Shakespeare, puts it with regard to this drama of the beyond and of time in general. The whole drama of Macbeth is a play on the theme of darkness versus light and can be read on several levels. We know now that William Shakespeare was a crypto-Catholic, and the power of his verse is very much that of our faith. And so, when he hears that his queen, Macbeth, is no more, he is caught off guard and comes out with this: "Wherefore was that cry? The queen, my lord, is dead. She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day, to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle! Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. This is the cry of many a soul. Indeed, some will be found at a graveyard, lamenting the passing at an early age of someone who had the right to be there longer and protesting that never again will they go to Mass. This can be seen, this reaction, quite often. God was unjust. The attitude of those who lived nearby in New Grange, just behind here, was of a different order. Life for them meant 30 or at the most 40 years, and they were very much aware that they had no right over it. We have been anesthetized against death. It has no right to be there, and therefore God is unjust. God is unjust. If only we knew what the soul sees at the moment of death, we would be a little humbler while we still have one breath of life. It would seem that one of the greatest pains of souls, once they are no more in the order of time, is that they realize how little they had appreciated time when they had it in their hands. And as St. Paul invites his beloved disciple Timothy, so too he invites us to fight the good fight and to lay hold of eternal life. Lay hold of eternal life. We need to make sure that we have our priorities right. Luxury is to do with pleasure. Pleasure is to do with the body. The body is to do with atoms and molecules. This can have an effect on the soul and create a certain impression of consolation. But even if there is pleasure, the soul knows secretly whether there is peace, and if there is not peace, there cannot be true joy. The soul tries to flee this truth by adding to its pleasure and therefore distracting itself. But there is no joy without harmony at the deepest level, and there cannot be harmony at the deepest level if there is not harmony with the will that made us and wishes our good. At the moment of death, this truth is seen, and for some it is for the first time. And then one finds oneself in those scales. Nuda, cruda, the body is there, going up or down, according to the weight of its merit. And then pleasure is what it was, emptiness, unable to satisfy what it is by its nature. Ecstasy is what the soul is made for, and there is a chasm between those who will know ecstasy and those who will know its absence, and therefore fundamental frustration forever and ever and ever. Media vita in morte sumus, sung at Compline during a part of Lent. An ancient chant going back to the heart of the Middle Ages and possibly composed during the time of the Black Plague. When we have travelled on and moved afar upon the dawns that wake us, take us there where all things have their rest. When this our star that glimmers through our morn has bid us wear our solemn even's robe, and we no more have time to rhyme or riddle with our fate, but stand with understanding at the door, to which none came that hasted or was late. What will the droplet of a beam of time that we to ink did dye seem then? And then how will the sound of this once well-wound chime rebound across the closing age's glen? And will there be an hour to look again and wish, half wish, we could one hour yet gain?